Hello dear students of third prep science for first term. Today we have a new episode of science and we will talk about first point in this episode as we will talk about relative speed, then we will study the acceleration and the concept of acceleration. Let's go to start with the first point in our lesson today, or the relative speed. As we talk about the relative speed أو السرعة النسبية, we talk about the speed of an object relative to another object. يعني سرعة جسم بالنسبة لجسم تاني. Maybe this or these objects move in the same direction. Maybe these objects move in the opposite directions. So in this case we have two methods to calculate the relative speed of an object according to or relative to another object. So in this case, how can we calculate the relative speed? We already calculate the speed from the previous episodes. We can calculate distance over time أو المسافة على الوقت to calculate the speed of an object. But now we need to calculate the speed of an object relative to another object. سرعة جسم بالنسبة لجسم تاني. We have two cases in this concept. We have these objects move in the same direction, maybe with different speeds. كل واحد ليهم سرعة مختلفة. And in this case we have a mathematical law to calculate the relative speed. And we have another type or another description, وصف تاني to the relative speed if the objects move in the opposite direction. بيتحركوا في اتجاهين متضادين. In this case we have another mathematical law to calculate the relative speed of an object relative to another object أو بالنسبة لجسم آخر. So let's go to start on the monitor. Here we can see what is meant by the relative speed. As you see here we have two objects, maybe car number 1 and car number 2. As you see here we have VA and we have VB. So if we want to calculate speed of this object relative to another object as this car, so we talk about what here? In this case we talk about the relative speed. بنتكلم على السرعة النسبية. So what is meant by relative speed؟ يعني ايه سرعة نسبية؟ تعالوا نشوفها مع بعض كده. The speed of the moving object. سرعة جسم متحرك relative to the observer or another object. What is meant by observer here? معناها المتابع أو المشاهد أو المراقب. So here we talk about speed of the object, of the moving object relative to the observer. Relative to the observer. So how can we calculate the relative speed? We have two cases as we talk about here. Maybe the two objects move in the same direction. Maybe these objects move in the opposite direction. بيتحركوا في اتجاهين متضادين. As we see here, when the objects move in the same direction, الاتنين بيتحركوا في نفس الاتجاه. We have car A as you see here and moves with the speed 40 meter per second, and car number B moves with the speed 30 meters per second. So we have to know relative speed of car A to car B. عايزين نعرف سرعة A بالنسبة ل B. خلي بالنا in the same direction. How can we calculate the relative speed in this case? If the two objects move in the same direction, we just put minus between the two values. هنحط علامة minus ما بينهم. We will subtract, هنطرح car A from car B. How come? We will see now. هنشوفها دلوقتي. In this case we will calculate car relative speed of A to B. يبقى هنعمل in this case 40 اللي هي car A minus 30 what here 30 is car B, as you see here, car B. So the value or the result here equal 10 meter per second. So relative speed of car A to car B، سرعة A بالنسبة ل B بالنسبة لها. How come? 10 meters per second. Why? Because we subtract 40 minus 30 equal 10 meters per second. طرحناهم من بعض. طيب. How can we calculate the relative speed of car B to A? Car B to A. In this case, we make subtract or summation. We make subtract. Why? Because these objects move in the same direction. بيتحركوا في نفس الاتجاه. So here we have relative speed B to A. So we make what here, as you see here, relative speed 30 minus 40 equal negative 10 meter per second. We have speed and negative, yes, in this case, because the value of B less than A, so 30 minus 40 equal negative 10 meter per second, as this car appears going backward. كأنها بترجع بظهرها طبعا. So dear students, here from these cases we can calculate now the relative speed of an object to another object. Maybe this object in case or in position of rest، يعني كأنه واقف مثلا. And another object in case of motion، في وضع حركة. So in this case we calculate the relative speed according to the two objects move in the opposite direction، كأنهم عكس بعض. We make summation the two values together. يعني if we want to calculate the relative speed of a moving car with speed 50 km per hour to light post، بالنسبة لعمود نور مثلا، عمود نور zero speed equals 0 kilometer per hour. طيب يبقى in this case we will calculate speed our relative speed as 50 km per hour, speed of the moving car، سرعة العربية اللي ماشية على الطريق 50 km per hour plus how many 0 km per hour the speed of the light post، عمود النور. So the relative speed equal 50 km per hour. طب لو قال لي the relative speed of light post to the moving car on the road with 50 km per hour speed، 50 km per hour. The same way to answer this question، نفس الطريقة. How come? In this case we make summation، هجمعهم 0 plus 50 equal 50 km per hour. So in case two objects in the opposite direction or one of them in case of rest أو in rest position في وضع سكون and the other object in motion في حركة, we calculate the relative speed as in this case the relative speed as the two objects move in the opposite direction. But if the two objects move in the same direction we make subtract between one of them to the other. بعمل عملية minus أو بطرح one from the other to calculate the relative speed. يبقى أنا كده عرفت what is meant by relative speed, as relative speed is speed of an object relative to another object or another moving object أو بالنسبة لجسم تاني. As we sit in train، لو أنا قاعد في قطر as we can see in this movie this small موفي، الفيلم اللي انتوا شايفينه قدامكم هنا، هو قاعد هو اترست. بصوا هو بيتحرك بس هو appear in the beginning of this video at rest, but now we discover this person in state or in motion، بيتحرك. So we have relative speed here as relative speed of an object according to or relative to another object بالنسبة لجسم تاني. يعني أنا قاعد حاسس، هل أنا قاعد أنا ما بتحركش، بس you now inside a moving object. انت جوه جسم تاني بيتحرك. So we talk about relative motion or relative velocity as relative speed. Speed of two cars move beside each other as car A and car B, as you see in front of you. So car A and car B. Car B faster than car A. So if you want to calculate the relative speed, لو انا عايز احسب سرعة car B to car A. In this case, the two objects move in the same direction, so we make subtraction. Minus. بعمل لهم minus. يبقى XB minus XA, where the value or the result here is the relative speed of B to A. طب A to B يبقى XB minus XA. In the first case the value in positive, يعني تبقى positive value. لما XB minus XA, in this case we have in negative as we calculate in the previous slide زي ما حليناها من شوية في السلايد اللي فات. يبقى VB minus VA, we can calculate the relative speed VB to A. Minus subtraction because we talk about relative speed. If we have to calculate طبعا هنا B to A, B more than A, so the value in positive هتطلع نتيجة positive. If we have B to A, positive. If we have A to B, in this case يبقى in negative. As we have two objects move in the same direction, بيتحركوا في نفس الاتجاه. And we have another object moves in the opposite direction, بيتحرك في اتجاه ضدهم. So the two objects here move beside each other with the same speed. على فكرة relative speed here according the two objects beside each other in zero. هما الاثنين كأنهم زيرو لأن هما الاثنين equal بعض والاثنين moves in the same direction, so we make subtraction. صح. Subtraction 50 minus 50 equal how many؟ أو بصوا بيطلعوا فوق V2 minus V1. Okay? And the two objects with the same speed. 50 minus 50 equals 0. 100 minus 100 equals 0. But we have another object moves in the opposite direction. In this case we will calculate with plus. ساعتها هضطر أجمع. عشان كده so here dear students, when we have two objects in case in these objects here move in the opposite direction, لما بيتحركوا في اتجاهين عكس بعض، لما بيتحركوا في اتجاهين عكس بعض بيبقى in this case the accident بيبقى high value of loss، بيبقى خسائر عالية جدا because in this case we make V1 plus V2 بنجمعهم على بعض كأن ال two objects hit each other، خبطوا في بعض with summation of the two speeds بالسرعتين على بعض. Or in other case if the two objects move in the same direction and the behind car hit the front car، لو العربية اللي ورا خبط العربية قدام بيبقى less يعني كل عبس او الخسائر بتبقى اقل لان هنا V1 minus V2. So we know now what is meant by relative speed, and we know now how can we calculate the relative speed of any object if they move in the same direction and if these objects move in the opposite direction, and we have a positive value if they move in the opposite direction, and we have negative value if they move in the same direction, but we calculate the less minus the more speed car value here. So now I think we can finish now lesson 1 completely, and we can we have to take little questions or as a brief about main points in lesson 1. So here we have a scientific term to remember: motion, speed, average speed, and relative speed. As we see here, Number C, the total distance that moving object covers divided by the total time taken to cover this the distance. خلي بالنا قال لي حاجتين مهمين جدا. Number 1, total distance covered divided by total time taken. So we talk about what here? I think we can answer, we talk about here as, yes, average speed. Average speed أو السرعة المتوسطة. The value of the object's speed relative to the observer, I think we just answered this question from a few minutes. The value of the object's speed relative to the observer, here we talk about the relative speed. Okay. Next question, what is meant by each of the following? The average speed of a moving car is 70 kilometers per hour. Here we talk about definition, but we have a number. We should answer with a number. يعني we define average speed but with number. How come? Question said average speed equals 70 kilometers per hour. So total distance covered equal ده خلي بالي بيقول ايه equal distance يبقى 70 كيلومتر over total time taken equal how many? Equal 1 hour. So total distance covered over total time taken equal 1 hour. So we have average speed. We say total distance covered over total time taken to cover this distance. 70 divide 1 equals 70. Car moves at a uniform speed 80 km per hour. What is meant by uniform speed? We know uniform speed, body covered equal distances at equal intervals or periods of time. صح؟ تمام. So we will define uniform speed but with number. هنعرفها بنمبر as we see here 80 km per hour as we see. So we answer as the car covers covers equal distances. مش هي uniform يبقى 80 كيلومتر at equal intervals or periods of time equal 1 hour. Because we talk about what? Uniform speed, and we have a number at the same time to put this number, and this number is speed, and the speed consists or depends on distance and time. A moving car covers distance of 100 kilometers in 2 hours. We have here to define. How come? We have prepared definition. عندنا definition جاهز. طب how can we define again? Moving car covers distance 100 kilometers in 2 hours. So we have distance and we have time. So we need to talk about what? نتكلم على مين اتبقى؟ Speed, yes. So this car moves with speed equal 100 divide 2 equal how many? Equal 50 kilometer per hour. So we can answer here depending on speed y. جبتها منين؟ اقول له we have distance and we have time. So if we have distance and we have time, so we talk about here, we talk about the speed. As you see, dear students, here we can answer any question according to the mathematical triangle or the magic triangle, المثلث السحري بتاعنا. Speed equal distance over time, or average speed equal total distance over total time, or relative speed as v1 plus v2 if they move in the opposite direction, and v1 minus v2 or v2 minus v1 if they move in the same direction. We know what is meant by motion. Motion is the change of the object according to another object as time passes. On the other way here, we talk about the description, a wasf, the motion. We have two descriptions here: motion in straight line, حركة في خط مستقيم, and motion in curved line, حركة في خط منحني. We know the types of speed as we have uniform speed, body covered equal distances at equal intervals of time, and we have another kind of speed as non-uniform speed or irregular speed, سرعة غير منتظمة, body covered unequal distances at equal intervals of time, or the body covered unequal distances at equal intervals of time. يعني خلي واحدة فيهم equal and the other value is unequal. So we talk about the irregular speed or non-uniform speed. We have another concept as the concept of this episode, as we talk about what here? We talk about the acceleration. Acceleration بتيجي في دماغنا, which means increase أو the speed increases, السرعة بتزيد. لأن acceleration حتى معناها بالعربي هي العجلة which means here من التعجل, not bicycle, عجلة اللي مش العجلة اللي هي العجلة اللي احنا البايسكل نفسها. طيب acceleration here is change in the speed as time passes, هي تغيير السرعة. Maybe I said change in the, our body changed the speed as time passes, بمرور الوقت. Maybe this speed increases or maybe this speed decreases. ممكن السرعة تزيد أو تقل. ممكن تزيد أو تقل. يبقى خلي بالنا من البوينت دي كلها, عشان في sometimes يعني and some students make a link between acceleration and increases. No, acceleration acceleration means change in the object speed, تغيير السرعة. Maybe I use this or I will increase the car or the car's speed, for example بزود سرعة عربية. Maybe I will use the brakes, أدوس فرامل, to decrease the speed of the car. So in these two cases, in these cases we make a change in what? احنا غيرنا ايه؟ السرعة. We change the speed. So according to the definition or اللي هو احنا نتكلم عليه اللي هو graphical representation of a moving objects, بعمل لهم graph, as we have two graphs in the previous episode لما we talk about uniform and non-uniform speed. As we see here on the screen here, unit 1, lesson 2, graphical representation of a moving in a straight line، حركة في خط مستقيم، اللي هي we make just a graphical representation to these moving objects in a straight line. We have a first question here, and this question is very important. Physicists use another mathematical relation like graphs and tables. هو الفيزيستس اللي هم علماء الفيزياء يعني use another mathematical relations، بيستخدموا mathematical relations طبعا معروف معناها like graphs and tables. دي بيستخدموا graphs لو الرسم البياني و tables الجداول. ليه؟ We have many يعني نقدر نقول ways to use mathematical relation like graphs and tables. يعني عندنا طرق and we have many benefits، استفادات كتيرة منهم. أول حاجة to what? To predict the relation between the physical quantities. عشان أقدر predict هنا عشان أتوقع. The relation between the physical quantities عشان أعرف العلاقة relation between physical quantities directly proportional or inversely proportional زي ما بناخدها قبل كده في first prep and second prep. Number two, to يعني describe physical quantities or physical phenomenon in an easier way عشان أقدر أوصف physical phenomenon أو phenomena الظواهر الفيزيائية in an easier way. So here we have two main reasons to use the graphs and tables. واحد يجي يسألني كده انتوا بتجيبوا نفسكم صداع ليه وتقعدوا تعملوا graphs وتقعدوا تعملوا tables ليه؟ اقول له لا، ليها two main reasons. The first reason here to predict the relation between physical quantities. Number two، لما عرفت خلاص physical quantities بتاعتي. Number two, to describe physical phenomena in an easier way عشان اقدر اوصف physical phenomena. We talk about speed, so we have distance, time. We talk about acceleration, we have speed and time. So, what is meant by acceleration? As we say, or we will say here, acceleration is change in what? نتكلم على acceleration يبقى بتكلم على التغيير. Change in what? Change in speed. خلي بالنا انت بتغير السرعة. As time passes. بمرور الوقت. أو in 1 second. واحد يقول لي ينفع أقول change in speed in 1 second؟ تغيير السرعة في الثانية الواحدة؟ صح. يبقى change in speed. So here how can we deal with acceleration؟ إزاي هتعامل مع الأكسلريشن؟ How come? Number one, we have mathematical as graph يعني أو magic triangle. مثلث بتاعي أهو. أقول له كده. We talk about what? Acceleration. Acceleration A small acceleration. Change in speed. So we have at least two speeds. عندنا سرعتين. V1 السرعة الأولانية and V2 السرعة الثانية أو الأخيرة. Initial speed and here we have final speed السرعة النهائية. Okay, so we can say or we can write here V2 minus V1, or we can write instead of V2 minus V1 we can write delta V, delta which means difference or subtraction, minus يعني, over T2 minus T1, or we can write delta t. So acceleration is change in speed as time passes. هو تغيير السرعة بمرور الزمن or in 1 second. From this mathematical relation or this mathematical law we can deduce, نقدر نستنتج the measuring unit of acceleration. Measuring unit of acceleration. تعالوا كده نحسبها تحت تاني. We have here A and we know A equal delta V over delta T. So V measuring unit of speed is what? Meter per second. And the measuring unit of time is second. So measuring unit of acceleration is meter per second, which means meter per second power 2 or meter per second squared. جبتها منين؟ تاني. Power 2 second power 2. We have measuring unit of speed is meter per second. So here we have second. And measuring unit of time is second. Meter per second we can write as meter per second power 2 as the measuring unit of acceleration. So now, dear students, we know what is meant by acceleration as change in speed as time passes or in 1 second. And we know acceleration equal v2 minus v1 over delta t or t2 minus t1. Measuring unit is meter per second power 2. Maybe one from you asking me about the measuring unit of acceleration, maybe kilometer per hour power 2. Yes, this answer is right. But in your syllabus في منهجكم we will use only one measuring unit for acceleration. بالنسبة للاcceleration احنا هنستخدم only one measuring unit. Not like speed. Speed we have two measuring units, meter per second or kilometer per hour. Okay? Time we have two measuring units. In according to if we want to calculate the speed وانا بحسب السرعة, hour or second, distance kilometer or meter. But acceleration we will calculate the value of acceleration with measuring unit meter per second power 2. If we have speed in the problems of acceleration, لو عندي مسألة على problem of acceleration and the speed in this problem in kilometer, we should convert into meter per second, from kilometer per hour into meter per second. And we know how. In the first episode we say بنقولها ازاي؟ كيلومتر to per hour to meter per second من كيلومتر في الساعة لمتر في الثانية. We multiply with 5 over 18. 5 over 18 multiply. Okay, so we will calculate the acceleration with measuring unit meter per second power 2 only in our syllabus أو في curriculum بتاع تالتة أو third prep in first term. Okay, so we know now what is meant by acceleration, mathematical law of acceleration, and we know the measuring unit of acceleration. عرفنا measuring unit أو وحدة قياس acceleration. طيب, we should answer problem to practice, just to practice the way to answer. How can we make difference or subtraction of speed over time to calculate the acceleration? Let's go to start with the first problem in this episode. نبتدي بأول مسألة عندنا about the acceleration. بيقول لي car starts moving from rest. Oh my god, from rest هنا how can we calculate V1 equal 0. واحد يقول لي عرفت منين؟ اقول له قال لي from rest. يبقى car starts moving from rest on a straight road after 4 seconds. يبقى delta t equal 4 seconds. Okay. The speed becomes 12 meter per second. V2 equal 12 meter per second. Calculate the acceleration. So we know acceleration equal V2 minus V1 over delta T. So V2 equal 12 minus 0. Why 0? Because first or initial speed السرعة الأولانية كانت بزيرو. Body at rest over delta T 4 seconds equal 12 over 4 equal 3 meter per second. Yes, per second power 2. Measuring unit of acceleration. Measuring unit of acceleration. So we know now acceleration is the change in the object's speed as time passes or in 1 second. Give reason for the body that moves with acceleration can't move with regular speed. الجسم اللي بيتحرك acceleration can't move with regular speed. Acceleration, which means what? Acceleration, which means change in speed as time passes. بمرور الوقت. ده مش معنى acceleration. يعني السرعة حصل لها change. So the speed here change. And we say at the same time regular speed. How come? Regular speed, the speed doesn't change. As we said at the previous episode, as motion of moon around the earth or motion of the earth around the sun considered as regular speed. تعتبر سرعة منتظمة because the speed doesn't change. جسم بيتحرك with regular or uniform speed. Its speed doesn't change. سرعته ما بتتغيرش like moon around the earth or earth around the sun. So اقول له الانسر بتاعتي because the speed doesn't change. السرعة ما اتغيرتش. عرفناها منين؟ من كلمة ايه؟ regular. regular ايه؟ speed. regular speed as we talk about regular speed we have no acceleration. مفيش acceleration في الحالة دي. طب نشوفها بجراف. نشوفها بجراف. If we have graph like that and we should know graph of acceleration as we have V and T because we talk about what? Acceleration. V over T. طيب. If the body moves with regular speed we have graph like that. هنبقى جراف شكله بقى عامل ازاي؟ كده. Straight line parallel to the time axis. In this case, this graph represents two facts. بيدل على حاجتين. Number one, regular speed because the speed doesn't change. V1 equal V2. So acceleration equal 0. If we watch this graph, we should write two facts. Body moves with regular speed and at the same time acceleration equals 0. السرعة ما بتتغيرش. ما هو regular speed. ما هو سرعة منتظمة. So V and t, we talk about acceleration. But if we have a straight line parallel to the time axis, we have no acceleration. Why? Because body moves, or this body moves with regular speed, and final speed equal the initial speed. We know final speed is v2 and initial speed is v1 اللي هي السرعة اللي بدأ بيها. Maybe in some cases, dear students, acceleration value in negative. بتبقى الاكسلريشن القيمة بتاعتها بتبقى بالنيجاتيف. Maybe in positive. How can we deal with the acceleration in positive or in negative? According to final speed and according to initial speed. السرعة الأخرانية أو النهائية والسرعة الأولية. As time passes. كده الوقت هيعدي. Time will pass if the body move or doesn't move. الحاجة الوحيدة we can't stop. الحاجة الوحيدة مش هنقدر نتعامل معاها في البروبلم or in our real life. حياتنا الوقت ما نقدرش نتحكم فيه. يعني أنا قاعد بتكلم معاكم دلوقتي and time pass. الوقت بيعدي. If we move, if we sit, we at rest, whatever. Body in motion or body in rest, the time will pass. الوقت هيمر. But we have another factor. We talk about speed because acceleration is change in speed as time passes. خلاص انت قلت لي كده الوقت هيعدي. طيب if we have two speeds, final speed and initial speed, or initial speed السرعة الأولانية والفاينل speed السرعة الثانية. Some cases we have final speed greater than initial speed, and in some cases we have initial speed greater than final speed. Each one of them represents a case or a kind of acceleration. كل واحدة منهم بتوريني حاجة معينة في الاكسلريشن. لأن we said before acceleration is the change in the object's speed. قلت change in the object's speed as time passes. هي تغيير في السرعة بمرور الوقت. تغيير change maybe by increasing or decreasing. طيب if we have مثلا for example body moves، يعني عملتها problem كده قلت مثلا v1 equal 20 meter per second initial speed, and the driver use the brakes. السواق استخدم الفرامل till the speed reaches v2 equal 15 meter per second. السرعة وصلت لغاية 15 meter per second through في خلال 2 seconds في ثانيتين. ايه اللي هيحصل؟ اقول له اوكي acceleration equal v2 minus v1 equal delta t. v2 equal how many? v2 equal 15 minus 20 over 2. 15 minus 20 equal how many? Equal 5. 5 over 2 equal how many? 2.5. محدش خد باله من حاجة ان انا عديتها كده؟ ايوه في ناس مصحصحة هتقول لي negative 5 لان 15 minus 20 equal negative 5. Negative 5 over 2 equal negative 2.5 meter per second power 2. In this case we talk about negative acceleration. From this problem, dear students, we know now acceleration may be in positive, maybe if the speed increasing as time passes, or maybe in negative as the speed of the object decreasing as time passes. At the end of this episode, I hope you get more benefits from these points, but we will continue. This lesson is graphical representation of a moving object. In next episode, طبعا happy feast and best wishes my dear students. See you soon. Goodbye. صباح.